Panthers lost over the weekend. There is, from a football standpoint, like on the field, X's and O's standpoint, there is a glaring reason they lost that game. They have no counterpunch when a team sells out to stop Rico Dowdle. Or the running game, right? However you want to describe it. When a team expends most of their resources on defense to stopping the run, the Panthers have no counterpunch. They have no way to keep you honest. Now there's I always talk about the blame pie. Everybody gets their slice, right? Were the wide receivers perfect? No. Was the play calling awesome? No. Was Bryce Young also a big part of that problem? Yes. You should salivate as a quarterback when the defense decides their main priority is stopping the run. When you see 8 men in the box, when you see 7 guys in the box and 2 more with their eyes kind of fluttering out of the corner of their eye, knowing that they have to come up and stop the run, you should be excited. Because it's opportunities. It's throw the ball deep. It's put the ball in my hands. Put the game on my shoulder. And as a coach, if you believe in your quarterback, you should be just as excited. Oh, I thought this was going to have to be a 9-play touchdown drive. We might get this one out of the way in 1. Here we go, boys. But it didn't happen. And that in and of itself right there is the reason for why that game hurt so much, for why that game felt, even though it was close, right? It wasn't like it ever got completely out of hand. It didn't feel close.
It was 10-7 early in the fourth.
It did not feel close. You don't need the most. You don't need to be, the Dan Fouts, Air Coryell offense. You don't need to go Mike Leach. You don't need to be 45 attempts a game. All you need to do is be competent enough that a team has to play honest. Or else you're going to have Rico Dowdle, who's obviously been really impactful, really effective over the last 6 weeks, and you're going to have a team that is selling out to stop him, and he's going to do everything he can, and it won't be enough because there's not an offense on the planet that can run the ball against a team that doesn't fear the pass at all. It's why, right now, go look up Troy Aikman's stats and compare him to, like, Ryan Tannehill. Go compare him to Blake Bortles, right? Go compare him to all these quarterbacks that are nowhere near the Hall of Fame. And people love putting up the screenshot of Troy Aikman against them and going, why is this guy in the Hall? He never had this. He never had that. He's in the Hall because every single time a defense sold out to stop Emmitt Smith, he was good enough. He and Michael Irvin were good enough. And if you can do that and have a great running game, you can be one of the best teams of a decade. But if you're not good enough, the blueprint's out. The answers to the test are out. Sell out to stop the run, there's nothing they can do. It's across all of sports. You need to be balanced, right? If a high school basketball team has a 6'8" kid and the defense just plays a packed-in 2-3, everybody with a foot in the lane, and you have no shooters, well, it's tough, right? Dave Canales, after the game, was asked about the lack of vertical passing game in the Panthers offense. This is what Canales had to say.
That's something we're working on. It's just taking advantage of those opportunities one-on-one down the field, and it comes down to just me to you factor and making those plays. At the same time, from a game plan standpoint, I got to make sure we're putting our guys in the right spots, taking advantage of matchups.
Why didn't you? Right? It wasn't, and this is one of the things that does frustrate me about this Panthers coaching staff. They aren't the quickest to adjust, right? It took them 2 games to realize they shouldn't be splitting carries between Chuba and Rico Dowdle. That was a very obvious situation watching the Panthers, right? Halfway through the second quarter, it's like, well, if they don't start hitting some deep shots, if they don't start pushing the ball downfield, if they don't start loosening this defense, there's nothing they can do. If you watched on TV, the broadcast was talking about it, right? Mark Schler, they're daring this offense to pass the ball. They were leaving their corners on islands. It wasn't like this super secret thing that after watching film for the third time, it's like, oh, you know what? We probably should have thrown it a little bit downfield. You knew. If you know football at all, I mean, I'm not even saying like you got to be a former player, former coach. You don't got to, if you play Madden, which normally I think is not the best way to learn football, but in this case it works. You knew you had to loosen the defense. So for Dave Canales to be sitting there after the game, like, we had to find a way to put our players in positions to call the play. It's a sink or swim moment. You're not going to win bashing your head into a brick wall over and over and over again. You know what you have to do. Give your guy the chance. It became very, very obvious they didn't trust Bryce. Rightfully or wrongfully, the trust from quarterback to play caller has to be there. Or you have to be able to run the ball for 200 yards on 6 yards a carry, and that's what they've been escaping with over the last six games. Without that, you have to trust your quarterback. You have to. And as soon as it loosens the coverage, as soon as it loosens the second level, you can go right back to running the ball. But you have to trust your quarterback. And if you don't, you're going to play better teams than the Saints. And you're going to play defensive coordinators that are every bit as clever as the Saints, and they're going to do the same thing. You scored 7 points. 7.
Let's not forget the 7 points came because the drive was extended because of roughing the passer call.
Great point.
I also wonder this as well. Only your opinion on this, Tim.
Mm-hmm.
That early interception on that very first drive that Bryce threw, again, that was negated because of a roughing the passer call. That was about like a 15, 16-yard pass right down the middle of the field between the hash marks. And Bryce threw it right into the linebacker's chest. Do you think at that point it's like Dave Canales went, no.
Very much. I mean, it's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
100% a possibility. And we maybe saw similar things against the Dolphins, right? When they stayed committed to the run and the comeback so aggressively, but he also had the 2 very early turnovers. It might just be, all right, if we're going to win, it's going to have nothing to do with that guy. And I don't think you can operate that way in the NFL. Nobody is that good in the NFL. Especially not the Panthers, where you can just say, all right, what is offensive football? Well, it's running and passing. All right, well, we're good enough to only need one of those. It's not the case. And do you know what's he did have the interception late, which was a bad interception. And he didn't have the magic, the theatrics at the end to get the game-winning whatever. Do you know what's the craziest part about it? The craziest part about the way Bryce Young played is it wasn't really outside the norm. It wasn't a significantly worse game than they've had in other games. Right? It wasn't a significantly lower volume game. It just wasn't. It's kind of what you should expect from the quarterback, right? The best indicator of future results, past results. It's one of my favorite sayings. Well, the 3 previous games, he had 25, 20, and 25 attempts. He had 138, 102, and against the Saints, 124 yards. It's right there in the mix. It's right there in the mix.
He's had 1 game over 200 yards. 9 starts. 1 over 200.
And that was a loss.
Yeah. He threw it 55 times.
He took 55 attempts. His average yards per attempt, like he's right where he on the season, he's 5.6. Against the Saints, he was 5.0. This wasn't a crazy outlier game because I will give players, that's a bad game.
Yeah.
I will. If you play well for 8 weeks or if you play well for 7 out of 8 weeks and then in a weird game you lay a stinker, listen, humans are humans. But what I think is crazy is how much the reaction to Bryce Young is tied to the outcome of the game. He throws for 102 yards, right? Has a low passer rating, low average, low 1 turnover, no touchdowns, all of that. But they beat the Packers, and he's great. Has almost the exact same game, and they lose to the Saints, and now it's unacceptable. So what you're saying is the defense and the running game decides if the quarterback is good enough, which isn't how you should evaluate any individuals.